The House of Wagers. The overhead lights hit like flood lamps on a prison yard. Heat rippled off the polished marble floors of the grand foyer as the cast assembled before the massive double staircase, flanked by columns and gold-leafed railings. 12 strangers stood shoulder to shoulder, half of them already sizing up the competition, the other half struggling to mask their nerves for the cameras. And above it all, a gleaming black banner scrolled the words, "Welcome to House of Wagers. Play smart, bet hard, win big." Asha Monroe kept her smile tight, her eyes scanning every detail. The molding on the ceiling had fake cracks intentional, aged by set designers. The chandeliers were all turned slightly clockwise to hide the boom mics above. The contestant staircase had a sharp inward slant on the 7th step, just off enough to create a subtle wobble for dramatic descents. Every inch of the house was performance, the stage pretending to be a home. "Let's hear it for day one, housemates." The host, a manic former magician named Ravon K., shouted from a floating stage in the corner, his voice sharp as a cattle prod. "You're not just living here, you're betting your way to $1 million. The crowd erupted in cheers. Well, most of them. Asha, 34, former public defender, now unemployed, and technically disbarred for reasons the bar called misuse of sealed documents and she called trying to do her damn job, clapped along with the others. But her eyes did not join in the excitement. They scanned for inconsistencies, habits, tells. There was the quiet one, Chloe, an ex-nurse turned OnlyFans celebrity, who kept touching her left wrist whenever the camera turned away. That likely meant something she wasn't supposed to have on her. Aha! Probably a Fitbit or Apple Watch stitched into the lining of her sleeve. Asha filed it away. Then there was Reed, mid-20s. Cocky, chiseled jaw, influencer-grade musculature, and fake humility. He'd introduced himself with the ease of someone used to being on camera. "What's up, guys? I'm Reed. You might know me from my 90 Days of Grind series. I'm here to have fun, maybe win some cash, and show y'all how I hustle." But what caught Asha's attention was where his eyes went after he spoke. Twice. No, 3 times. He glanced at the 3rd floor landing during introductions. Not a casual scan. A fixed look. Quick but deliberate. Like he was checking something. Or someone. When the group was ushered into the main game room, a garish casino-inspired hall with neon-lit doors and a wheel of dares mounted to the far wall, Reed stayed near the front. The host clapped his hands and announced their first real challenge. High risk, high reward. You'll each bet on one contestant to take on a daring challenge, Ravon K. explained, twirling a top hat for effect. If they fail, you lose your share of the starting jackpot. If they succeed, you all rise together. And for our very first gambler, let's see who's brave enough to balance the walk of steel. The light shifted. A single steel beam, 6 inches wide, descended from the ceiling, spanning across the open atrium from one balcony to the other, 2 stories up. Below it, a colorful foam pit waited, but not without a smattering of hard objects underneath to raise the stakes. Before anyone could murmur or negotiate, Reed stepped forward. "I'll do it," he said with a grin. The rest of the group clapped and hollered. "Hell yeah, Reed!" someone shouted. Ravon K's grin stretched even wider. Asha's hands stayed at her sides. There was no hesitation in Reed's voice. No stutter, no second thoughts. His body language was too relaxed. She knew that walk. She'd seen it in smug defendants who thought they had a case rigged from the start. As Reed climbed the stairs to the beam's starting point, Ravon K's voice boomed out again. "Don't forget, housemates, before he starts, you all have to place your bets. Fail or succeed, this affects your individual totals." The contestants each filed to the podiums lining the game room, pressing one of 2 glowing buttons. Asha leaned in just enough to see what Chloe hit succeed, and what the frat guy, Tyler, selected fail. Asha tapped fail. Her instinct screamed at her not to trust the setup. The beam lowered into place, locking into magnetic grooves at either end of the balconies. Reed stood at the edge, cracked his neck theatrically, and took his first steps. 1 foot. 2. He teetered. The audience gasped. He swayed, overcompensated, and then he fell. From 2 stories up, his body twisted downward, limbs tucked into a calculated spin. There was a muffled thud as he hit the bottom, landing off camera, but clearly not on the foam pit. Screams echoed through the atrium. Chloe covered her mouth. A man named Nate cursed. Ravon K shouted something about emergency protocols and cut to commercial with a practiced wave of his arm. Chloe can't walk. Production crew swarmed the scene in seconds. As Reed was lifted onto a stretcher, Asha watched closely. His eyes fluttered open for a split second and scanned the room. They didn't look panicked. They looked focused. And then they closed again. That night, in her assigned bedroom, room 4, second floor, camera in the top corner, audio feed in the smoke detector, Asha sat cross-legged under her thin white bedsheet, heart thudding. She reached into the seam of her pillowcase and extracted the small, flat burner phone sewn into the fabric. The signal was weak, piggybacking off a wireless smart plug near the vanity. It took 4 tries to connect. Then, a click. Static. A voice, distorted but familiar. "Monroe, that's you?" Asha kept her voice low. "I think I just watched a staged fall." "What makes you so sure?" No panic in his face. He controlled the fall. No medics checked his vitals. The feed cut too fast. And Reed, he looked at the 3rd floor landing during intros like he was expecting something. A pause. "You're inside a ghost betting op." Asha swallowed. She'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed tightened her gut. "Producers set up real games for viewers," the voice continued. "But the money, the real money, is coming from the dark web. They're taking bets on everything from breakdowns to accidents. I wouldn't be surprised if they rigged it so people get hurt on cue." Asha whispered, "So he faked the fall for the audience. But someone paid big money to bet on it actually happening." "Exactly." Another pause. "You're not on a show, Monroe. Your inventory. Get proof, quietly, and be ready to pull the cord." Asha tucked the phone away. The game was no longer about money. It was survival. The next morning, the sun rose like a spotlight, harsh, hot, and too fast. Asha stepped into the shared kitchen where the other contestants were already gathered, half-dressed, half asleep, all of them playing the role of eager reality stars. Cameras embedded in the light fixtures followed every movement. Mics hung like decorative beads over the island counter. Everything was always on. But something was missing. "Where's Reed?" Asha asked casually, pouring herself a cup of burnt coffee. "Medical evac," said Tyler between mouthfuls of cereal. "Heard a producer say he was airlifted last night. Spine fracture." Asha nodded, pretending to accept it. But Reed's personal duffel bag was gone. Not just removed, replaced. A new one sat on the bunk below his with a contestant label. Jaden, Atlanta, Georgia. They didn't even leave a trace. The production team was fast, precise, mechanical. As the group moved into the main lounge, Ravon K appeared on the flat screen in his glittery blazer, delivering the morning announcement. "Housemates, welcome to day 2. His grin was exaggerated, toothy, something almost uncanny. "With Reed now eliminated, it's time for a shakeup. Please welcome your newest competitor, Jaden. Our wildcard entry." The front door opened with a dramatic hiss. In walked Jaden, 22, covered in tattoos and looking more like a club bouncer than a game show contestant. He offered no wave, no introduction, just a tight-lipped nod and a glance at the cameras. Asha watched him. His posture was defensive, hands in pockets, eyes scanning corners rather than faces. He's not here to win, she thought. He's here to watch. The day's challenge was a social one. Trust falls and bluff calls. Ravon K bellowed later that afternoon from the game room, where 12 oversized cards sat face down on a felt-covered poker table. Each contestant drew a card. 5 were safe, 5 had embarrassing dares, and 2 had punishment rounds. But only the contestant knew what was on their card. The rest had to bet, bluff or truth. Jaden drew last. He didn't flinch when he flipped the card for the group to see. Reveal a criminal record. The room laughed awkwardly. Tyler let out a "damn, bro," while Chloe covered her mouth and whispered to Asha, "That's harsh." But Jaden just smiled coolly. It's true. Then he stood, removed his mic for a moment, earning a sharp warning tone from the overhead system, and said, 2009, armed robbery. I was 16. A hush fell. It didn't match his age. Asha did the math in her head. He was too young in 2009. That would have made him about 8. No, she caught the lie. And judging by the flicker of Ravon K's expression on the monitor feed, someone else did too. But the production let it slide. No penalty, no fact check. Just a thanks for your honesty, and on to the next contestant. Something deeper was happening here. The game wasn't just encouraging lying, it was testing thresholds. Seeing how far someone could push before a camera blinked red, and Asha was now certain. Jaden wasn't a contestant. He was bait. Or worse, a handler. Later that night, Asha slipped away from the party that had formed around the fire pit outside. Cheap champagne flowed. A producer had even wheeled out a cotton candy machine for vibes. It was all a show, noise designed to drown instincts. She moved fast, using the dead zones between camera sweeps. Reed's room had been repurposed, the nameplate switched. But Asha wasn't after the obvious. She lifted the edge of the new mattress, feeling along the stitching. Just inside the zipper lining, she found it. A tiny plastic bead, black, scuffed, and with the dull red dot on the side. A tracker. She pocketed it. Suddenly, her comm crackled to life-soft static in the tiny earpiece she'd tucked under her hair. You're not supposed to be in there. The voice wasn't from her handler. It was live. Inside the house feed. Inar. Asha froze. The room's lights dimmed an inch. The door behind her hissed as the lock re-engaged. I see you now, Asha Monroe, the voice said. This time, male. Calm. Intimate. Then the feed cut off. She didn't sleep that night. There was no safe zone in the house anymore. No corner left unwatched. They knew her name. They had let her in knowing exactly who she was, which meant this was no longer about what she could expose. It was about how long she could survive. Morning came dressed in soft light and surveillance. The curtains in Asha's room opened on their own at precisely 7 a.m., triggered by the in-wall automation system. Music began playing softly, an upbeat track from some pop artist who was probably paid to license their song to the show. Asha lay still in bed for a moment, watching the light crawl across the ceiling. Shrunker. They knew her name, not just her alias, not just her fake contestant bio, her real name, Sunker, and they'd spoken it through the house feed, a channel reserved for scripted production commands. Washa. She sat up slowly, her ears on high alert for every mechanical click and hum. The air vents whispered. The wall camera made a near imperceptible buzz as it rotated its lens. The glass of water she'd left on the nightstand was gone, replaced with a fresh one. They wanted her rattled. That was the play. She dressed and headed to breakfast. The dining room was unusually quiet. Jaden sat at the far end of the table, alone, methodically peeling a banana. His eyes didn't lift when she walked in, but she felt the weight of his attention all the same. The other contestants were missing. Joe, where is everybody? Asha asked, grabbing a mug. Jaden finally looked up. In the studio, bonus challenge filming. No one said anything. He smiled. You weren't invited. Her jaw tightened. I thought we all had the same schedule. You're not here for the same reasons. Asha sat across from him. No, she said calmly. I'm not. Jaden leaned forward, elbows on the table. Reed made the mistake of thinking he could pocket information. He tried to keep something. A file, a list. Didn't realize they'd tag everything in this place. Now he's off grid. Asha played dumb. So he's in a hospital? Or? Jaden chuckled, slow and humorless. He's in the archive. That word struck cold. Contestants are content, Jaden went on, voice low and flat. Footage, audio, biometrics, all of it gets harvested and repackaged. Your game profile is just the surface. Underneath, there's a live market. Buyers place bets in real time, but they also bid on long-term rights. Asha frowned. Rights to what? He tilted his head. You, your brand, your breakdowns, your risk assessments, your pain thresholds. The coffee in Asha's hand suddenly tasted like metal. Jaden finished his banana, stood, and dropped the peel in the trash. This isn't a game show, he said, walking past her. It's a catalog. Later that afternoon, Asha was called into the confessional room. A red LED blinked over the door. Inside, the leather chair was bathed in pink light. A producer's voice chimed through the speakers. Asha, you've been selected for a viewer's choice bonus task. She sat cautiously. What kind of task? Simple. You'll be shown a clip of one of your housemates making a private confession. Then you can choose to expose it or protect it. Your decision will be broadcast. The screen lit up. Tyler's face appeared. Drunk, sloppy, eyes red. The clip played. Him talking about a fight with his girlfriend, where he'd broken her phone against the wall and called her a word Asha couldn't even repeat aloud. The clip ended. Expose or protect? The voice asked. Asha's gut twisted. Protect, she said. He needs help, not humiliation. The light turned blue. Thank you. That was the wrong choice. The door stayed locked. A second video appeared. This time, it was her. Footage from her room last night, after the voice had spoken to her. The earpiece. Her face. Her panic. Her whispered recording of the voice, saying her name. You brought an unauthorized device, the voice said now, dispassionate. Violation of game integrity. You've been flagged. Asha's blood ran cold. Flagged for what? For ownership transition. The door unlocked. That night, Asha paced in the courtyard under a moon that looked too perfect, too composited. She clutched the tracker she'd found in Reed's bed. She hadn't activated it yet, but she had a plan forming. They weren't just running bets. They were selling profiles to outside bidders, buyers, who wanted to use pain, fame, and collapse as investments. And now that she was flagged, she knew what came next. The next round wouldn't be a puzzle or a dare. It would be her. The house was louder the next morning. Brighter. Colder. Asha stepped into the common room to find a fresh challenge already underway, spill or spin. Contestants took turns revealing personal secrets or spinning a punishment wheel. The setup was designed to seem fun, but Asha had learned to listen not to the music or laughter, but to what wasn't said. The rules had changed. Again, now the spins weren't shown on camera. Results were whispered to contestants by off-screen producers. No transparency, no accountability. But hey, it wasn't a challenge. It was data collection. She approached Chloe at the espresso machine. What did you get? Chloe kept her voice low. 24-hour silence penalty. Can't talk to anyone but the camera. And what if you break it? Chloe's eyes flicked to the ceiling. They said I forfeit an opportunity, whatever that means. Asha nodded and slipped her a folded scrap of paper. It read, Watch Jaden. Tell no one. Signal if he leaves the West Wing hallway. Chloe read it, blinked twice. Yes, and crushed it into the empty oat milk carton. The house moved like theater now. A blur of social games and fake drama. Tyler accused Nate of cheating on a trust-building task. Two contestants had a screaming match over kitchen duties. Every episode was engineered conflict. Asha played her part, smiling, nodding, laughing when cued. But behind her eyes, she was building a new game. That afternoon, she tested her theory. She stood in the confessional booth and told a story about a childhood betrayal, scripted, emotional, detailed just enough to feel real. The producers lapped it up. Then she leaned in, voice low, and whispered, I know about the other show. No reaction. I know about the off-platform feeds. Still nothing. But that night, during dinner, one of the ceiling cameras above her place at the table tilted 4 degrees. It hadn't moved all day. At midnight, Asha enacted Phase 1. She slipped out of bed and made her way to the prop room, which contestants used during costume challenges. It was filled with wigs, foam swords, and unused mic packs. But Asha went to the back wall, where an old analog monitor still sat on a rolling cart, supposedly decorative. She pried off the panel. Inside, taped behind the screen, was what she'd hoped to find, a dummy phone with a silent SIM, likely left behind by Reed or someone before him. It was already powered, connected. She opened a folder labeled Tracks. There were names, prices, timers. Her own name was highlighted in yellow. Asha Monroe. Lot 3 bidding window closes in 18 hours. The bids weren't cash, they were crypto identifiers. Anonymous strings of numbers, offering coin for what was listed as breakdown potential, high. Manipulation resistance, moderate. Broadcast appeal, stable. Underneath, a line in bold. Bonus access included. Private interrogation stream, plus proprietary emotion analytics overlay. She scrolled down. Jaden's profile wasn't listed. Because Jaden wasn't for sale, he was staff. Her hands shook as she powered down the phone. They weren't just auctioning pain, they were packaging personalities like software, selling digital access to a human being's worst moments, optimized for entertainment and biofeedback. A knock startled her. 3 slow raps. No voice. She stuffed the phone under a loose floor tile and reached for a broom, trying to look casual. Fast access. The door opened. Jaden stood there. Couldn't sleep either? He asked softly. Asha forced a smile. Too much sugar in that cake earlier. Jaden looked past her to the monitor cart. Props make you nostalgic? Just hiding from the noise. He gave her a long look, then stepped closer. You should pace yourself, Asha. This place has a way of convincing you you're still in control right up until the last frame. Asha tilted her head. Are you threatening me? No. Just offering context. He leaned in, whispered, sometimes you have to let the house think it's winning before you burn it down. And then he left. 17 hours, 6 minutes, and 21 seconds. The timer was still running. Asha watched the hours blink away on the smuggled phone beneath her mattress. The auction countdown on her profile was live, down to the second. Someone, or several someones, were still bidding. Every time the price updated, she felt the floor tilt under her. She wasn't being eliminated from the show. She was being acquired. She had 17 hours left. At breakfast, Ravon K's voice blared through the ceiling speakers, unusually chipper. Housemates, surprise drop! We have a new challenge today. One that gives one of you something you've all been craving. A pause. An exit. The room froze. Asha glanced around. No one moved. Ravon continued. Today's challenge is the clause. You will all compete. One winner. The prize? A clean exit from the house, with full immunity, prize money to date, and a non-disclosure contract. The door opens once. One of you gets out. The others stay. Tyler whispered. Is this real? Probably not, Chloe muttered. Jaden, across the room, said nothing. He just sipped his protein shake and watched the wall like it was whispering to him. They gathered in the game room. A single red button sat in the center of a glass table. Around it, 12 seats, 12 envelopes. Ravon K appeared on the monitor. This is a challenge of risk. Your envelopes contain sealed offers tasks with consequences. You can accept or pass. Pass twice, and you're out. Complete 2, and you advance to the final round. Asha opened her envelope. Confess something you've never admitted to anyone. On a live stream that cannot be edited. She closed it slowly. She knew what this was. A harvesting tool. A profile depth test. The stream was real, but the clause? Probably not. Still, she nodded. I accept. A buzzer rang. A camera lowered. Go ahead, Asha, said the voice from the ceiling. She breathed slowly. Then she looked into the lens and said, When I was a defense attorney, I leaked sealed footage of a police beating to a journalist. I did it because I knew the DA would bury it. I lost my license. I don't regret it. The camera clicked off. Silence. Then, accepted. 1 completed. She looked around. Tyler was sweating. Chloe sat stiff, frozen. Nate had already passed once. Jaden hadn't opened his envelope yet. Back in the hallway an hour later, Asha pulled Chloe aside in the laundry nook. The one place the cameras couldn't reach the audio cleanly due to the machines. "Did you see the stream feed?" she asked. Chloe nodded. It was real. People in the chat were reacting in real time. "You trended for 4 minutes." Asha's eyes lit up. "Then I can use it." "Use it how?" "If I can leak something from the buyer side, show the viewers they're bidding on more than footage, they'll turn. Burn the house from the outside." Chloe hesitated. "How?" "I need a screen recording, just one. Something showing my name with a price tag." Chloe bit her lip. "That'll get you flagged worse than you already are." "I'm already sold, Chloe. This is the only way I walk out through the front door, instead of a black van." That night, Asha activated the burner phone again. 13 hours, 2 minutes, and 10 seconds. She opened her profile. A new bid had come in. $225,000. Priority buyer, Red Act, with a bonus clause. Immediate extraction authorization if profile destabilizes. Meaning if Asha caused too much trouble, they'd pull her, permanently. She tapped record on the phone's camera. She narrated it in a whisper. "This is contestant Asha Monroe. I'm being sold in an illegal auction run through this show. Viewer platforms are fake. This is a cover. The real game is below the game." She panned to the screen, showed the price, the metadata, the clock, 11 hours 58 minutes and 22 seconds. She pressed send to the contact her handler had embedded in the phone weeks ago. The file uploaded. Progress, 1%, 4%, 18%. Then the screen went black. Her door flew open. Jaden stood there, expressionless. "You had to do it the hard way, huh?" Jaden closed the door behind him. No shouting, no accusations. Just the slow, deliberate sound of the lock sliding shut. Asha stood at the edge of her bed, her breath shallow. The burner phone was gone. The screen had shut down mid-transfer. But had it finished? Did the file make it out? Or had they intercepted it? "Who's REDDACT?" she asked, her voice low. Jaden leaned against the wall. "You weren't supposed to see that." "I saw a number. I saw my value." "You saw a fraction of it." Asha narrowed her eyes. "You're not just a staff plant. You're a handler, aren't you?" Jaden smiled without warmth. "I'm an asset, like you, except I learned a long time ago that staying in the system buys more time than fighting it." "Did Reed figure that out too?" Jaden's expression darkened. "Reed tried to sell internal data off-network. The people upstairs don't like leaks. And me? What do they do with whistleblowers?" He looked at her evenly. "They delete them." Asha stepped forward. "I sent the footage. I showed the auction screen. That file is out there now." Jaden shook his head. "You think it's out there. They rerouted the uplink. Your video was intercepted and is already being repackaged as a fan theory segment for the next bonus episode." Asha's stomach dropped. "You're lying." "You're not the first person to try this," Jaden said. "But you might be the last." An hour later, the house alarm sounded. Ravon K's voice echoed through every room, now tinged with something colder than showbiz energy. "Housemates! Due to a security breach, tonight's clause challenge is being expedited. All remaining players are required in the atrium. Now, the doors unlatched." Asha walked into the foyer with Chloe and Tyler beside her. Nate and 2 others followed silently. Jaden had already taken position near the wall, arms crossed. A new element stood in the center of the room, a sleek, mirrored cube 6 feet tall, with only a single chair inside and a camera mounted in each corner. A panel above it read, "Exit test, final candidate, evaluation." Ravon K's voice returned. "We have one final chance for a contestant to walk out or be removed." The crowd stirred. Chloe whispered, "What does removed mean?" Asha had a sinking feeling she already knew. "Each of you will step into the cube alone," Ravon K continued. "You will face a single question. Lie, and the system will know. Tell the truth, and your profile will either stabilize or collapse." Asha's heart thudded. This was the real elimination. A psychological filter designed to flag volatility. The buyer auction wasn't just about value. It was about risk. They were purging instability. Anyone flagged as unpredictable would be scrubbed. Forever. Tyler went first. He emerged sweating but intact. They asked if I ever hurt someone I loved, and if I'd do it again. Nate followed. He didn't come back. The cube dimmed. The wall lit up. Nate, removed. No explanation. No camera feed. Just a red box where his name used to be. Asha's turn came next. Just a resignation. She walked slowly to the cube, the door hissing shut behind her. The glass turned opaque. Just a resignation. Inside, the voice was no longer Ravon K. It was synthetic, mechanical. Asha Monroe, you attempted to leak private data. You failed. Your actions have triggered an audit. Final question. If offered total freedom in exchange for the names of those who helped you, would you comply? She froze. The air in the cube felt thinner. Jaden, Chloe, her handler, the journalist who got her disbarred. Every name they wanted on file. Asha stared into the lens. No, she said, not for 1,000 exits. Silence. The lights dimmed. Then, profile destabilized. Retention override requested. Override? Asha's pulse surged. Someone upstairs didn't want her deleted. They wanted her retained. That meant the auction wasn't just live. It was watching. The cube door hissed open. Jaden stood outside. You survived, he said, unreadable. Because someone bought me in time, Asha replied. Jaden shrugged. Or maybe you became too valuable to kill. That night, the house grew quiet. Only 6 contestants remained. Nate's bed was gone. His footage had already been erased from the replay wall. His name was scrubbed from the website. But Asha didn't sleep. She stared at her reflection in the window, wondering if her soul was still hers, or if it now belonged to the highest bidder. There was no alarm the next morning, just a text, delivered to every contestant's screen simultaneously. Aha! Something new, something more urgent than Ravon K's voice or confessional cues. Today's event, live global broadcast, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Prepare for maximum audience exposure. All remaining players are required to participate. Chloe exhaled sharply. That's the first time they've told us it's live. Tyler laughed nervously. What, everything else has been fake? No, Asha said, but everything else was edited. Live meant raw, no cutaways, no time to digitally smooth out edges or repackage confessions. No delay buffer. Live meant vulnerable, and that meant opportunity. She found Jaden on the second-floor balcony. Looking out at the garden, there was really just a 3D backdrop, looped across LED panels. He didn't turn when she approached. I need 5 minutes of uninterrupted air during the live stream, Asha said flatly. Jaden raised an eyebrow. So direct. Most people ease into asking me for favors. This isn't a favor. This is a shared insurance policy. He looked at her finally. Insurance from what? From becoming the next Nate. Jaden said nothing. I saw it, she continued. In the cube. Someone issued a retention override. That wasn't a mercy play. That was a buyer staking a claim. And you think going live will what? Break the spell? I think if I show them the system from inside, I can make it radioactive, at least for long enough to collapse the auction. Maybe even draw heat from regulators. Jaden leaned on the railing. You'd be surprised what the world's willing to ignore for entertainment. I'm not trying to get out anymore, Asha said. I'm trying to set the house on fire. A long silence followed. Then Jaden reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a keycard. Studio C, door behind the north wing stairwell. Green light means live feed. Red light means it's on delay. You've got maybe 2 minutes while they're switching angles. Use it. Asha took the card. Jaden's face hardened. But if you fail, if they catch you, you'll vanish faster than Nate. And there won't be a nameplate to scrub. 7:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The house was lit like a Super Bowl halftime show. Colored spotlights skimmed across the walls. Music pulsed from hidden speakers. A fresh logo burned across the projection screen. House of Wagers, Final 6. Live tonight. A camera drone hovered inches above the table where the 6 remaining contestants were seated. Ravon K appeared on the main screen, now a hologram in full regalia. Viewers! For the first time ever, you are in control. Every move, every choice, every consequence will play out before your eyes. Unfiltered. The house erupted in artificial cheers. Tyler waved to the drone. Chloe mouthed something silent. Get ready. Asha quietly palmed the keycard. 8:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A blinking red light over the stairwell turned green. Now, Asha slipped away while the others debated over the first round's public betrayal game. The moment was Chaos' perfect cover. She moved down the back hall, slid the keycard into the panel behind the wall curtain. Studio C, unlocked. The room was bare. One mic, one camera, one direct uplink terminal glowing with a single prompt. On air. Window, 90 seconds. She sat down, steadied her breath, and spoke. This is Asha Monroe. I am a contestant in House of Wagers. What you're watching is not a game show, it's a market. She leaned in. You are not just viewers. You are data. And we are products. The dares, the drama, the eliminations, they're all cover for a private auction run on the dark net. We're being sold bit by bit. 2 corporate buyers and behavior labs who use these shows to train systems and test stress responses. Nate didn't lose. He got deleted. The screen behind her flickered. Her time was running out. If you're seeing this, screenshot it, post it, rip it, make it impossible for them to bury this. I am not for sale. None of us should be. The door slammed open. Jaden appeared. Not running, walking. You're done, he said. She stood. Did I get through? Jaden hesitated. And then he nodded. Asha didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, but out of readiness. She'd spent too long reacting. Now she needed to act. The broadcast had gone out. She'd seen the signal indicator flip the global stream. Mirrored. That meant her speech was duplicated across more than just the show's public feed. It had hit affiliate mirrors, ones not controlled by the studio. At least a few seconds of truth had slipped free. But that didn't mean she was safe. She knew these kinds of systems didn't implode, they mutated. And the mutation arrived at 9 a.m. A luxury SUV pulled into the courtyard behind the house. No fanfare. No drone coverage. No dramatic announcement. Only Jaden noticed. He was already waiting by the stairwell, arms folded, eyes narrowed. Wes. Asha joined him seconds later. You knew this was coming. They always send someone when a profile destabilizes and hits the public stream, he said. Who is it? Not a producer. Not legal. Then what? Jaden looked at her. A buyer liaison. The man who stepped out of the SUV looked like he belonged at a banking conference, not in a surveillance compound. Pale gray suit, small glasses, expression like a corpse that had learned to smile. His name, at least the one he gave, was Linton. He didn't shake hands, didn't introduce himself on camera. He simply walked into the house and summoned all 6 remaining contestants to the atrium. Even Ravon K stayed quiet. Linton addressed them with clinical clarity. There was an unapproved deviation from broadcast format last night, he began. A contestant used our live mirror window to share unsanctioned content. This content has generated limited but measurable traction on unauthorized platforms. He turned toward Asha. You created friction. That alone is not a problem. In fact, friction often leads to engagement. She blinked. You're not angry? I'm not here to remove you, he said. I'm here to rebrand you. The room fell silent. Linton continued. Effective immediately, House of Wagers is pivoting to a new format. The game will continue, but you, Asha Monroe, will be publicly recast as our wildcard disruptor. A rogue element, loved and hated in equal parts. You're turning me into a character. You already are one. I'm simply monetizing the spike. Asha stepped forward. What if I say no? Linton smiled. You already said yes the moment you looked into that lens. Chloe whispered. This is sick. Jaden remained quiet. Asha scanned the room. And what happens if I refuse to play along? You'll still exist, Linton said. But your narrative will be rewritten without your input. You'll be a villain, a traitor. Your broadcast will be recut into desperation. We'll even let the audience vote on your fate." He tilted his head. "Refuse, if you like. But control is an illusion here." That night, the website changed. A new banner appeared above Asha's profile. "Is she a hero or a fraud? Vote live on tonight's episode." And beneath it, Asha Monroe, the most watched contestant in house history. She returned to her room, trembling. Not from fear, but rage. They hadn't shut her down. They'd repurposed her rebellion, and now they were selling it. Jaden appeared at her door. "I warned you," he said. "You helped me. I gave you a shot at the truth. I didn't say the truth would win." Asha leaned against the frame. "What would it take to break the system for real?" Jaden's eyes scanned hers carefully. Then he said, "Don't aim for the auction." "What then?" "Destroy the platform." The next morning, Asha stopped pretending. No more playing the role. No more smiling for drones or faking interest in trust exercises. She let the producers spin her however they wanted. Let them frame her as unstable, paranoid, the most dangerous contestant alive. It made the lie more brittle. Let it crack. Because while the viewers were busy arguing over her morality, she was walking through a different door. Studio Ops B, disguised as a malfunctioning challenge set. Jaden had left her a gap. 10 minutes. No cameras. No audio. A literal dead zone. One, he claimed, had existed for months, patched into the back of the studio to run cooling for the auction servers. It wasn't on the blueprints. She wouldn't get a second try. Asha stepped inside. It was colder than expected. Narrow. Cables snaked along the wall like arteries, pulsing with soft blue light. Servers hummed softly behind smoke glass panels, each labeled with an alphanumeric code and a buyer pool prefix. BXAUCCT, contracted trainers. BXAUCMN, military neuromapping. BXAUCVR, viewer retention indexes. But she was looking for one in particular. BXCORE01. She found it. It wasn't flashy. Just a slate black cabinet covered in fingerprints and lint, guarded by a biometric panel. Jaden hadn't said how to open it. She stared at the scanner, then reached into her jacket. The key card from Studio C, the one Jaden had given her 2 episodes ago. She slid it across the panel. Access override. Admin protocol, Alpha. The cabinet hissed open. Inside, a terminal already logged in, an ops dashboard blinking under a header. Platform engine. Real-time indexing. 6,443,018 viewers active. Rows of code scrolled by. A sea of live data. Active user manipulation response time. Clickstream influence ratio. Engagement threat analysis. Her name highlighted red. And at the bottom corner, a pulsing red command. Kill switch. Access level restricted. She clicked it. Enter staff code to confirm termination of active analytic layer. Warning. This will erase all real-time audience feeds and crash bidding interface. Asha typed the first thing she could think of. Jaden 0719. Denied. She tried. Redact auction. Denied. She looked back at the rack of servers, searching for anything, then spotted it. A black Sharpie nose scratched on the metal panel behind the cabinet. The system won't burn itself. You'll have to sing. Sing? She froze. That wasn't just a clue, that was a reference. To her confessional stream, the viral leak, the one they couldn't fully erase. She opened a second tab, located her own media files. Clip number 443,001. Her original speech. She copied the audio string, dropped it into the command prompt. Accepted. The screen flickered. Platform engine shutdown initiated. Auction feeds unstable. Control interface compromised. Then, alarms. Lights flooded the hallway. Voices on radios. Footsteps. They knew. Asha ripped the panel's SSD from the core, stuffed it into her waistband, and ran. Jaden met her in the hallway, panting. "You did it?" he asked. "I think I just took out their live targeting AI." Jaden's jaw clenched. Then we've got minutes before they hard reset everything. Not if we get this off-site, she said, holding up the drive. That's not a drive, he muttered, pulling her toward the service stairs. That's a detonator. And you just pulled the pin. Alarms wailed across the studio compound, not the fake ones for the game, but the kind that meant real systems were failing. Asha and Jaden barreled down a maintenance corridor toward the vehicle bay. The SSD clutched in Asha's hand like it was radioactive. In a way, it was. It held the root of the platform. The real-time analytics core, now inert, now poisoned. Above them, Ravon K's voice echoed across the house's speaker system, but it wasn't slick anymore. It wasn't rehearsed, it cracked. We are experiencing a technical issue. Please remain in your assigned rooms. Do not attempt to access restricted areas. Contestants weren't even listening. Tyler was screaming at one of the drones. Chloe was hammering on the locked front entrance with a fireplace poker. Half the camera lights had gone dead. The other half were spinning in place, as if confused. The platform's eye had gone blind. Jaden led Asha into the back-loading dock. "Is there an exit?" she shouted over the siren. Jaden motioned to a keypad near a plain gray door marked staff only, secured exit. "Only if you've got clearance." "I'm assuming mine doesn't work." "Nope." Jaden turned to a security panel and yanked the front off. Sparks burst. He jammed a pen into the wiring junction. The light turned green. "Go," he said. Asha hesitated. "Are you coming?" Jaden looked back toward the chaos echoing behind them. The drone screams. The sirens. The roar of people finally realizing they were never contestants. Just content. "Yeah," he said. "Let's finish this together." Outside, the world wasn't ready. They emerged into the parking compound behind the studio lot, a bare concrete yard that didn't look like TV. No glamour. No lights. Just vans, trailers, and the infrastructure of a billion-dollar illusion. Jaden sprinted toward a black cargo truck. "Why this one?" "It's hardwired to their signal relay. Every episode broadcast goes through it for final encryption before upload." Asha climbed in after him. "We can use it to leak the drive," he said. "But only once. After that, they'll shut the node down." Asha plugged in the SSD. The console blinked. New device detected accessing content bank. Warning, platform engine not responding. Security override initiated. Then the screen filled with feeds. Thousands of feeds. Not just Asha's. Everyone's. Every confessional. Every biofeedback stream. Every challenge meltdown. All raw. And something worse. Market pool. Behavior labs. Unfulfilled. Secondary rights distribution. Pending buyer verification. Asset transfer profiles. QD. She scrolled. There was Chloe. Tyler. Nate. Their neural response logs. Their psych maps. Auction expiration dates. And beneath it all, a final prompt. Initiate public mirror stream? YN. Asha turned to Jaden. "This blows everything." Jaden nodded once. Then hit it. She pressed Y. The drive sent its contents directly to open nodes mirrored darknet indexes, whistleblower dead drops, and backdoor social feeds that were impossible to scrub once seeded. It wasn't a broadcast. It was a detonation. The screen lit up. Transfer complete. Content irreversible. Then the console went dark. Jaden slammed the door shut just as headlights flared in the distance. 3 black SUVs peeled into the compound, tires screaming. "No reset," Asha whispered. "No rewrite. They can't take it back." Jaden grinned. "Nope. And now the world knows what a hero looks like." Back inside the house, producers screamed into earpieces. The auction UI flickered, then vanished. Ravon K slumped behind a stage wall, headset in hand, mumbling to no one. Outside the platform, the response was immediate. Anonymous drops flooded Twitter. Reddit exploded with time-stamped files. Major streamers reacted live. broadcasting the evidence to millions. By midnight, 5 sponsors had pulled out. And in one blurry cell phone video, taken by a studio intern and smuggled to a blogger, Asha Monroe and Jaden Stone were seen walking across the compound roof as sirens closed in. Still free, still dangerous. 3 days later, Asha Monroe's face was on every screen in America. Not just streaming channels. Not just Reddit front pages or TikTok recaps or explainer threads annotated with 1,000 comments per minute. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox. They all showed the same image. Her speech inside Studio C, grainy but clear, speaking the truth about House of Wagers, overlaid with bold captions. Reality show fraud exposed in live broadcast, contestants sold in illegal behavior market, dark data and AMP, dark money, the hidden industry. Some called her a hero, some called her a hoax. One congressman called for her immediate arrest for national sabotage. Another introduced a bill named ASHA Act Accountability in Streaming Host Architecture. She watched it all unfold from a motel room in Flagstaff, Arizona, curtains drawn. Phone off. Face beneath a hoodie. Anam-tua. Jaden sat beside her, flipping between news networks with the remote like a man skipping commercials in the middle of a fire. "They're confused," he said. "Not sure if they should kill the story or crown you." Asha stared at the screen. "They'll do both." It had taken them 2 days to get out of California, using burner vehicles provided by an anonymous contact from Jaden's past. A woman he called Mercury, who never showed her face and never said where she was sending them next. "You burned the auction," she'd said through a distorted voice modulator. "Now you need to vanish before they decide your story is worth more posthumously." They had agreed. But Asha wasn't ready to disappear. Not yet. She spent the third night on the motel bed, lit by the glow of a burner laptop, watching the mirror stream archives posted by whistleblower accounts. Thousands of commenters were now dissecting every confession, every fake challenge, every deleted contestant. There was even a subreddit, r/behind the wager. Conspiracy theories, deep dives, timelines, buyer lists. But what caught Asha's attention was a leaked screenshot, a document. Asset retention memo, the 12th of August 24. There, in black and white, was a sentence. Monroe asset holds value beyond platform integrity. Recommend alternate utilization if deplatforming persists. Her stomach turned. "They're not done," she whispered. Jaden glanced over. "What?" "They didn't just want me silenced. They want me redirected, reabsorbed." "Into what?" "Another story, another lie. They're going to spin me into a redemption arc. A comeback. A cautionary tale. Something to make it watchable." Jaden rubbed his eyes. "That's what they do. That's the machine." Asha closed the laptop. "Then we crashed the whole machine." That morning, they met Mercury's proxy in the back of a dusty auto shop. He wore mirrored glasses and handed Asha a manila envelope. "New ID," he said. "New passport. Offshore access to a small trust set up under an NGO. You'll disappear, fast or slow. Your choice." Asha opened the envelope. Inside was a passport bearing her new name, Amina Solari. She stared at it, then looked up. "Tell Mercury I'm not vanishing," the proxy frowned. "That wasn't a suggestion." Jaden put a hand on her arm. "You sure?" Asha nodded. "I started this fight. I'm going to finish it. Not by hiding, by staying visible. On my terms." That afternoon, she filmed a message. Not a leak, not a manifesto, just her, sitting at a bench outside a forgotten gas station. No filter, no flash. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "You don't get to turn people into products, then rewrite their exits. We are not content. We are not assets. We're human." The video was posted by Mercury's contact. Within 2 hours, it had over 12 million views. But beneath the post, buried among the fire emojis and hashtags, a comment appeared. A string of code. A timestamp. An address. Jaden read it over her shoulder. "What's that?" Asha's face went pale. "It's a signal," she said. "From who?" She stared at the screen. from someone inside. The address in the comment led them to a city neither of them wanted to be in, Washington, D.C. Jaden had argued against it the whole way. Too many eyes, too many cameras, too many people in suits pretending they've never watched your footage, but Asha insisted, because the coordinates didn't lead to a warehouse, a trap, or a burner drop. They led to a library, the McClellan Federal Reading Room, nestled 4 blocks from the Capitol. It was almost too perfect. A building where no one looked at you for sitting still, where laptops hummed quietly, where strangers watched each other silently, wondering if they were all reading the same secrets. The message had included a code. 2:40 p.m. Stacks Level C, Law Section 340.4. Asha entered alone. Stack Level C smelled like disinfectant and paper dust. At 2:39 p.m. she walked to Shelf 340.4. Nothing. At 2:40, the lights above her dimmed slightly. She turned. A man in a gray pullover, mid-40s, leaned against the opposite shelf, a thick law review volume in one hand. He didn't look up. He just spoke. "You were supposed to be deleted." "Yeah," Asha said. "They keep failing at that." He closed the book, slipped a flash drive between the pages, then handed it to her. "That contains partial financials, silent money partners, shell companies, off-book sponsorships. But you won't find names, just access paths, enough for someone motivated to connect the dots." "And why are you giving this to me?" she asked. "Because the people who bought the show didn't care what it did to the contestants. They cared what it proved." "Prove what?" "That surveillance can be consented to if it's gamified, monetized, and wrapped in false choice. They want to expand the model into education, healthcare, labor." Asha stared at him. "Who's they?" He smiled sadly. "That's what you're supposed to find out." She tucked the book under her arm. He turned to leave. She called after him. "Moment, what was your role?" He paused. "Let's just say I worked on the part where the cameras didn't blink." That night, back at the motel, Jaden decrypted the drive. The files were dense, metadata rich, obfuscated with dummy corporations, shuffled through tax havens and consulting contracts. But one thing was clear. The platform had been part of a larger beta program, codenamed Majestic Pulse, a multi-industry initiative testing how far people would go if they believed they were being seen, heard, and judged for profit, not just entertainment. Compliance engineering. Asha scrolled through the list of attached pilot programs. She found live-streamed wellness apps with emotional penalties, education platforms rewarding obedience over curiosity, workplace productivity software where low performers were publicly ranked by facial micro-expressions. Jaden swore softly. They were running micro-bets on everything, not just pain, shame, apathy, loyalty. "And we were the hook," Asha whispered. At midnight, her burner rang. No caller ID. She answered anyway. A woman's voice. Cold, clipped. "Jane, we gave you a lane. You jumped it. Now you're a liability." "Who is this?" "Someone with reach. Someone who can still give you a version of freedom. Walk away. Stop looking. Or the next episode will be the one where you never appear again." Asha's voice didn't shake. "I'm not in your show anymore." "No, but we still own the screen." The line went dead. Jaden looked at her. "Well," Asha stared out the window at the Capitol dome lit in soft orange. "They just threatened to erase me again." "And?" She smiled. "Let them try. I just downloaded the pilot season." The invitation came through Mercury's encrypted channel at 3:12 a.m. A major outlet, Global Frame, one of the only mainstream networks still pretending to be neutral, had offered Asha a live sit-down interview with anchor Silas Trammell. No edits. No delay. Broadcast from their D.C. satellite studio, Mercury's message read. "Neutral ground," they claim. "Security provided." Jaden didn't like it. "They're not offering this because they believe you. They're offering it because you're still trending. They want to cash in, then discredit you live." "I know," Asha said, already accepting. "Then why walk into it?" "Because they expect me to defend myself, and I'm not going to." Jaden blinked. "What then?" "I'm going to detonate the frame." The studio was glass. Modern, clinical, and blindingly white. Stage crew buzzed around the set with polite smiles and radio chatter, but their eyes were sharp, calculating. Silas Trammell was already seated, hair helmeted in place, tie like a razor. Asha wore no makeup, just a black turtleneck, no jewelry, no smile. The producer approached her quietly. Remember, live in 30. We asked the questions. Stay in frame. Asha nodded. She sat, wired in, mic'd up. Silas greeted the camera. Tonight, we have the exclusive. Asha Monroe, the whistleblower at the center of the House of Wager scandal. A former attorney turned contestant turned rebel. A woman being called both a hero and a fraud. He turned to her. Asha, before we begin, do you believe you're still in danger? Asha tilted her head. Silas, she said. I think you're in danger. He blinked. Excuse me? I mean you, your producers, this network. Anyone who thinks they're above the reach of the machine they help grow. You think you're here to expose me. But I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to show the audience what control looks like. She reached into her coat pocket and placed the device on the table. A small projector. The studio crew stirred. The floor director stepped forward. Ma'am, you can't. Silas gestured him down. Let her finish. The projector whirred to life. A green beam splashed across the studio backdrop. Images flickered in rapid succession. Platform bids sorted by viewer political leanings. Behaviorist algorithms predicting emotional compliance. A quote, content risk chart rating contestants by their likelihood of triggering audience revolt. A document marked live crisis simulation. Media intervention template. Asha turned back to Silas. I brought this here not to prove I was right, but to prove that you were compromised before I ever walked in. Silas stared, caught between performance and panic. Where did you get these files? Asha didn't answer. Instead, she spoke into the camera. You're watching this live. You can't edit me. You can't cut me off. I want you to know, you're part of the platform. We all are. And unless we tear it down together, this isn't the last season. It's just the next stage. She pressed a button. The projection shifted to a list of every biotag connected to Global Frame's ad division. Trammell finally cracked. Cut the feed. But the director didn't move. He was staring at the list. So was the camera operator. So were the viewers, because the screen in Times Square mirrored the feed. So did 3 Twitch channels. Reddit, TikTok, X, Instagram. The real broadcast had already begun. Later that night, Asha and Jaden were on the move again, this time under federal scrutiny and private surveillance in equal measure. The public was rising. The system was bleeding, but Asha knew the machine would evolve again. It always did. A text came through Mercury's line at 2:11 a.m. They're calling a summit, invite only, all silent buyers, private island, 7 days from now. Code name, Final Bench. The invitation came folded in ivory vellum, no return address, no signature, just an embossed line across the top. Summit, Final Bench. For strategic observation, investment, and retention. Departure location, redacted. Attire, discreet. Devices, prohibited. It arrived in Mercury's Dropbox 2 days after the Global Frame broadcast detonated across half the planet. Protests, lawsuits, stock collapses, 4 corporate resignations. 1 suicide that Mercury claimed was a cover for extraction. They're not regrouping, Mercury said in the encrypted call. They're rebuilding. They want to see who survived the fallout. And they invited me, Asha said. They think you're the final test, the virus that either mutates or dies. So they want to study you. Then I'm going, Asha said. Jaden was against it. This isn't a bunker, he warned. It's a gallery. Everyone there owns pieces of the machine. They'll smile at you while deciding how to contain you, or erase you. I know, Asha said, but this time I'm not going in alone. She slid him a second ID. New alias. New documents. He blinked. You want me inside? I want you in the server bay. The plane was private, unmarked, and boarded from a remote strip outside Nassau. No logos, just whispers. There were 20 others on the manifest. None of them spoke. Just nods, hard smiles, and a strange mutual agreement. This was not a place for confession. The island was real. Calder K, leased by a trust that didn't exist on any public register. Armed guards at the dock. Drones in the sky. A 6-room compound nestled against jagged cliffs. Inside, opulence disguised as utility. Sleek desks. No art. No wasted space. Just terminals, champagne, and a rotating menu of bio-enhanced attendees. Tis. Essa was shown to her room. No locks. No mirrors. No surveillance. Because the assumption here wasn't that you might betray the system. It was that you already belonged to it. The next morning, the summit began. They called it the conversation. No panels. No moderators. Just roundtable discussions with names like algorithmic accountability versus asset stability. Controlling public outcry via narrative burn cycles. When human response ceases to be useful, forecasting post-organic engagement, Asha sat quietly, listened, and recorded everything with the micromagnetic drive stitched inside her lapel seen transmitting through a stealth relay Jaden had buried inside the island's HVAC hub. That night in the garden, a woman approached her. Late 60s, pale blue dress, southern accent polished to marble. "You've caused quite a fuss," she said, holding a crystal glass of some genetically enhanced Merlot. "Took a lot of money to steer the public back toward entertainment after your little outburst." Asha smiled. "You fund the show?" The woman chuckled. "I fund the interface. I help prototype the pleasure-penalty ratio. Pain, shame, euphoria, relief. All coded into the reward structure. You weren't a rebel, Ms. Monroe. You were a predictive anomaly." Asha tilted her head. "What happens if I stop being predictable?" The woman sipped her wine. "Then we start a new model. One that corrects for you." At 2:04 a.m., Asha met Jaden under the desalination tower. He handed her a drive. Shaking. "I have everything. They're blueprinting 2 successor systems. One for Eastern Europe. One for middle schools in 3 U.S. districts. Gamified compliance metrics tied to nutrition and behavior. How long to upload it?" Jaden hesitated. "That's the problem. The island is offline. It's air-gapped. So how do we get it out?" He looked at her. "You're going to have to walk it off." The summit's third night was the closing ritual. They called it the Mirror Banquet. A dinner without cameras, but every detail, the lighting, the conversation, the silences, designed to simulate the feeling of being watched. It was the investors' favorite game, observing each other as if they were contestants. Every seat was assigned. Asha's was in the center. Jaden had warned her. They want you visible, controlled. They want to believe you've been reabsorbed. He was wrong. They didn't just want her reabsorbed. They wanted her to endorse them. The woman in the pale blue dress, Drive Delphine Voss, as Asha had learned, opened the dinner with a toast. "To progress," she said, raising her glass, "and the extraordinary beauty of reaction. Human outrage, after all, is just another form of signal." Laughter rippled. Asha didn't raise her glass. Delphine looked at her, amused. "Ms. Monroe, would you like to offer a closing thought?" she asked. "After all, you're the reason we're here." Asha stood. Cody, Jaden was in the far corner, near the wall panel concealing the uplink relay. His nod was barely visible. Cody, the drive was armed. The servers were mapped. All she had to do was make them look away at the exact right time. So she gave them what they wanted. A final monologue. "I came here," Asha said, "because I thought you were monsters." Silence. She walked slowly around the table. "But now I understand. You're not monsters. You're fans." Confused glances. "You watched my broadcast. Not just the data, but the performance. You clipped it, memed it, remixed it in private Slack threads, called it signal shaping. You weren't afraid of what I said. You were entertained." She stopped behind Delphine. "And I'm done performing for you." She held up the drive. "This is your last episode." She flung it onto the table. Jizday. Half the room flinched. The other half reached for security. But Jaden had already made the upload. Jizday was made. The drive didn't matter. The distraction did. Behind them, the relay wall popped open. A quiet tone, barely audible, signaled a successful burst upload. Uplink complete. Global nodes engaged. Transmission, live summit stream, plus investor audio, plus full file index. Mirrors, 72. Backups, 211. Irreversible. Across the world, people watched as every founder, funder, and enabler of the House of Wagers ecosystem blinked into full exposure. Their words, their contracts, their laughter, raw, live. On the island, panic set in. Security closed in on Jaden. Asha raised her hands, but the projector near the relay lit up, throwing their faces across the wall. An intern, a child, a janitor, a coder, Troy time, all of them watching. Who? He brought this on yourselves, Asha said calmly. You built a game no one could win. Jaden smiled as the feed played on every screen. And we just rewrote the ending. 6 weeks later, Delphine Voss was arrested in Switzerland. 7 companies collapsed. 2 governments launched joint investigations. A class action lawsuit representing over 43,000 data-trafficked individuals moved to trial. Jaden disappeared. Asha did not. She launched Public Frame, a decentralized network that used blockchain to expose digital manipulation, not monetize it. The world didn't change overnight, but the illusion did. The machine was no longer invisible. And Asha Monroe? She was no longer for sale.